Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Lords of the Night. With me, as always, is the Lord of Pain, the pill-popping ranting monkey,
Hello.
and the Lord of Pennies, Satsu 2 cents.
What it do?
And I'm your host, Scribe, the Lord of Punishment.
I
And
just like to
yes,
point out my pill popping is all legal.
yes, and you have no evidence to say otherwise, audience, because he doesn't have a camera on.
As far as we know.
Yeah. Hello, chat. Hello, everyone. Thank you for coming out tonight and joining us as always. Hopefully, we'll have a entertaining couple of hours for you with all the stuff that happened today. Boy, a lot of stuff happened today. But before we
I
get
got you covered with drama today.
Oh, do you now? I think I might have caught a little bit of your drama on the Twitter machine earlier. So
yeah.
But before we get there, Monkey Dick, Jim Jones movies, hit that like button if you have not already, and many of you have not, and share our stuff. There's new stuff out today from us, variously, so you should share it around. All that aside, how are you guys doing tonight?
I'm pretty good.
And I'm pretty good. Well, that's uplifting. I have my Dr. Pepper. I think I don't know if that's going to be like a running like gag now or something, but I just kind of like that.
It might as well be because.
Let's see. Anything we need to touch upon before we get into the news? Real quick, there is something. The dog story last night was a fake. Yes. Just so you all know. I had more than a good idea when I was reading it because it was from the World News Daily or World Daily News, where the fuck it is, and that's a satire site. But it was just so hilarious that I just didn't care. So I was like, okay. But there is no, so far as we know, there is no man who has fucked 300 dogs and is under arrest for it. It may happen. It may actually happen somewhere, but not that story itself is.
There was that guy who fucked the same dog twice.
Mm-hmm.
In like Arizona or something.
Yeah, we're not saying that it hasn't been the case that bestiality exists, just that particular story about it is not true.
I still want to know why they let that kid back around the same dog.
Thank you, Snubberth Monkey. I have about 4 pills for nose and throat stuff. I know the struggle of the popping.
Yeah, what did I take? I take 7 now every night and 6 each morning, and then what am I up to? 4 every afternoon.
Jesus.
And I hate taking pills. God damn it.
Monkey is a walking pharmacy.
Well, I'm the person who, if I had to go to the doctor and they gave me like antibiotics, I would stop taking them when I felt better instead of finishing the prescription like you're supposed to. That's if I took them at all. Yeah, this is God's punishment, I think. Monkey, are you sick? No, well, that depends on what you mean by sick. I can be sick.
Monkey, are you down with the sickness is what he meant.
I don't have any illness, but I do have a fun injury I live with. But we're not going to talk about that shit.
He has an allergy to good health.
Yeah.
I got this black guy on him. Now I got to get stoned to be with him.
I got a DM from Jenna P, who's asking, I know the stream's about to start. Was hoping you could, during the stream, ask Monkey about the merch I bought. 2 shirts. It's been a month plus a few weeks, so should have received it. Do you know anything about that?
I don't.
Is there a way to? Yeah, there might be a way to check into that via Teespring.
Yeah, I can definitely look into it.
All righty. Well, there's that. So, without further ado, let's start out with the breaking news that was breaking kind of for the last couple hours. That was kind of unconfirmed, but now it has been confirmed. North Korea's Kim Jong-un made a surprise and secret visit to China to meet the Chinese president for life.
Wasn't a secret if everybody knows about it.
Yeah, well, they weren't quite sure because there was like this giant armored train that showed up out of nowhere in China, and they're like, who the hell would, what's that? Where's that train come from? And they're like, oh, maybe it's from North Korea. And then they have confirmed that. North Korea leader Kim Jong-un made a surprise trip to Beijing, China, state media confirmed Wednesday. Images broadcast at Chinese state television's Images broadcast on Chinese state television CCTV showed Kim and his wife, Ri Sol-ju, meeting with officials during the trip. It took place from March 25th to 28th. And we're only hearing about it today. Interesting. The trip is Kim's first abroad, since he took the reins after his father, Kim Jong-il, died in late 2011. China is a traditional ally and major trading partner for North Korea, and now has basically its own dictator, just like Kim Jong-un is. Let's see. The young North Korean leader held talks with Chinese President Xi Jinping and a handful of his deputies, including Li Keqiang. I know I'm fucking that up. The Chinese premier, and Wang Qishan. Would you love it if your first name was Wang?
That would have been hard in school.
It would be hard, wouldn't it? In school. The Chinese vice president, who is considered one of Xi's closest confidants, according to Chinese state-run Xinhua news agency. Let's see. The issue of denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula can be resolved if South Korea and the United States respond to our efforts with goodwill, create an atmosphere of peace and stability while taking progressive and synchronous measures for the realization of peace, Kim said. Create an atmosphere of peace and stability. Who's making things unstable? Guy launching missiles at Japan and shit?
Well, he wasn't launching them at Japan. Just
near
over
Japan.
their sovereign airspace.
Let's see. Rumors first surfaced about a potential visit by a high-level North Korean representative Monday night in Beijing, when pictures of what appeared to be the Kim family train surfaced online. Okay.
They have their own train?
Sure, why not?
I mean, the only family trains I've seen are on Pornhub.
It's Rail Farce 1.
Well played.
Yeah, so it's kind of odd because I guess he's never really left the country. And this will be... you know what I think it is? I think that this was done so that the honor of his first presidential visit abroad was not the American president. I think it would have been bad form if the first world leader he met was not a close ally. I think that's why this happened.
That's probably true.
Thank you, Cryptic. Since both are Asians, measuring junk sizes would be pointless.
Wow.
Oh, yeah.
And remember, YouTube, he can say that because he's Asian.
Classic Cryptic.
Let's see. So there's not really news there. It was kind of just dog and pony show stuff. But I don't know. So I guess maybe it'll show that he's getting ready to meet Trump because he has to have some world leader experience.
I don't know whether it's about needing to have world leader experience, but it's definitely paying, respects to.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't have Trump be the first president you've met with.
Thank you, Snubberth. Did fucking China and North Korea just tell us to be more progressive? Yes. Well, at least North Korea did. That was a quote from Kim Jong-un. Who knows what Xi Jinping thinks? But yeah, you want to talk about progressive? The first place I think of is North Korea.
Apparently, Kelvin says I sound like I'm sick. That's because I just woke up, guys. I am 20 minutes now. I've been awake. Yeah. And Jenna, DM me on Twitter, if you would, please.
I think she said she tried, but it didn't go through or something. I don't know. Sanguine, thank you. Though they could compare their wangs sizes. Ha ha ha! My wang is taller than yours. Yeah. Anyway, what else happened today? Well, an update from a story we read last night that seemed a lot more worrisome than the news was giving it, but we have an update anyway. Arrest made in case of suspicious packages sent to D.C. area military and intel sites.
Hey, that was my MSS news story.
Oh.
That's okay. You can read it now because it's major news.
Suspect Tran Kong Fan, 43, was arrested at his home in the Seattle area. Huh. And I'm sure it's just a coincidence, but they closed down the Seattle Russian consulate, and then strange packages go there. At least one man has been arrested in connection with more than a dozen suspicious. A dozen? I don't know. Is that many? Holy cow! A dozen suspicious packages sent to government addresses on the eastern seaboard, most of them in the nation's capital. Tran Kong Fan, 43, was arrested at his home in the Seattle area on Monday. He is scheduled to make his initial court appearance on Tuesday afternoon. He is believed to have sent a total of 12 packages. Then why did you say more than a dozen? Okay. A total of 12 packages to military and government addresses in the Washington metro area, officials said. Officials have said the packages turned up at the CIA's mail sorting facility, a White House mail sorting facility in suburban Washington, a naval facility in Dahlgren, Virginia, and 2 facilities at Fort Belvoir, Virginia. FBI investigators found that the packages contained potential destructive devices and appeared to have been sent by the same individual. Some of the packages included letters that one official described as disturbed and rambling. The deliveries appeared to have been intended to cause fear rather than injure people or cause damage, but authorities have not confirmed a motive. Defense Secretary Jim Mattis told reporters on Tuesday that all of the packages mailed to Defense Department facilities were under the control of federal authorities. Quote, basically, there's a set procedure. They went through the procedure. Mattis said, we've had nobody injured, and all the packages and all the evidence is accessible and in the hands of the FBI now. So there you go.
They caught him really quick.
They did. He must have left some really clear trail there.
He like put a return address on the packages.
I wouldn't be surprised. Obviously not as smart as the Austin bomber.
Yeah. I was just surprised by how quick that happened.
If he got them from Seattle to DC, they had to go through the Postal Service, and there had to be a paper trail. This wasn't stuff just left at somebody's doorstep randomly. So I could see how it might be easier that way. Let's see what else. This happened today, and this kind of dovetails into a couple of videos I've done recently, and also a YouTube. Maybe not a YouTube drama thing, but something I'll talk about at YouTube time. Orange County Board votes to join Trump administration lawsuit against California over sanctuary law. Santa Ana, California. The Orange County Board of Supervisors voted Tuesday to join the Trump administration to challenge California's sanctuary law. Earlier, activists called on supervisors to abstain from fighting it while playing music and holding signs to protest the decision. Along with the immigrant advocates were supporters of Donald Trump. The board held a closed-door meeting on whether to join the government's lawsuit against the state over the law, which bars police in many cases from turning over suspects to federal immigration agents for deportation. The backlash comes a week after the sanctuary law was also challenged by the small city of Los Alamitos, when the council voted to opt out of the policy. The county moved this week to improve communication with federal immigration agents by publishing the release dates of inmates online. The sheriff's department used to screen inmates in the county jails to help immigration and customs enforcement agents identify those subject to deportation, but had to stop when the state law passed. Run-on sentence, guys. Orange County, which is home to Disneyland and wealthy beach communities where many people vacation, has a 5-member board of supervisors, and all are Republican. A little dissension in the ranks, so to speak, over in California.
Well then.
I'm hoping that the mayor of Oakland is a star participant in this lawsuit. And I saved this one for last because I knew it would cause the most conversation, especially probably out of Monkey and or Satsu. Retired justice urges repeal of Second Amendment.
Oh, fuck off.
So this is what led to the title of the stream tonight, because this was all over the place on Twitter today. And there's also, he did an op-ed, I think on the Washington Post, where he said, all that's needed to fix the Second Amendment is to add 5 words. And he had to search around in that article to get to the 5 words, but I'll try to find that in a bit. Retired Supreme Court Justice John Paul Stevens is calling for the repeal of the Second Amendment to allow for significant gun control legislation. The 97-year-old Stevens says in an essay on the New York Times website that repeal would weaken the National Rifle Association's ability to, quote, block constructive gun control legislation, unquote. Stevens was on the losing end of a 2008 ruling in which the High Court held that the Second Amendment gives individuals the right to own a gun for self-defense. He had previously called for changing the Second Amendment to permit gun control. Stevens says the decision in that case, District of Columbia versus Heller, quote, has provided the NRA with a propaganda weapon of immense power. Stevens retired from the court in 2010 after more than 35 years. In his essay published Tuesday, Stevens talks about the March for Our Lives events on Saturday, which drew crowds in cities across the country. Stevens said the demonstrations, quote, revealed the broad public support for legislation to minimize the risk of mass killings of school children and others in our society, unquote. He said the support, quote, is a clear sign to lawmakers to enact legislation prohibiting civilian ownership of semi-automatic weapons, increasing the minimum age to buy a gun from 18 to 21 years old, and establishing more comprehensive background checks on all purchasers of firearms. But Stevens called on demonstrators to, quote, seek more effective and more lasting reform. They should demand a repeal of the Second Amendment, he wrote. Repealing the amendment would be extremely difficult. An amendment to the Constitution can only be proposed either by Congress with a 2/3 vote in both houses or by a constitutional convention called for by 2/3 of the state legislatures. The amendment then has to be approved by 3/4 of the states. And I'm getting a bunch of background noise.
Sorry, I just muted and unmuted my mic, so that's probably what that was.
Oh, okay. Sound like a vacuum cleaner going off. Asked at a White House briefing whether President Donald Trump had any reaction to Stevens' comments, Press Secretary Sarah Huckabee Sanders said the president and administration, quote, still fully support the Second Amendment. Blah, 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 blah. And I'll try to find Stevens' 5 words here, but I wanted to get your guys' reaction to
that. He's a crazy old coot who's lost his goddamn mind. Why are people so goddamn afraid of the Second Amendment? I don't get it. Yes, guys, guns are scary, but you know what else is? Traffic, airplanes, breathing, water, all of this shit can kill you and takes more lives every fucking year than a gun does.
Yeah, but people don't cry on the news about it.
Oh, this is true. This is true.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so here's Stevens' amended amendment. I'm going to read the text that he provided. A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms when serving in the militia shall not be infringed. When serving in the militia is the magical 5 words that would solve all of this.
Yeah, because he's trying to do what people tried to do with the actual wording there. Let's get that super chat real fast.
Thank you, Sanguine. More people die each year falling out of bed than do in rifle murders. What does he plan to do about bed control? Bugger this guy.
It's John Paul Stevens. He's a fucking moron, and he always has been. Oh God, he only Ginsburg is probably worse than that fucking retard. Man, so many people on the gun control side have tried to use the militia wording in the Second Amendment to say that's the only time you can have a gun. That's what the founders meant, which, by the way, it's not. You can go back and fucking read the arguments from that time. It's not like it was so long ago you don't have written fucking record of it.
Yeah,
these guys actually had long, drawn-out conversations about the entire Constitution in written form. They used to publish pamphlets and respond in newspapers, for fuck's sake. And by the way, if you don't know who the federal farmer is, then you definitely need to do more research into the Constitution. Just throwing that out there. But
yeah,
this is asinine. It's fear for fear's sake. Guns are not the problem. Guns are a tool, period. We saw with the Austin bomber. You don't need a fucking gun to do anything. And what the fuck are you going to do? Pass an amendment that you can't have bombs because they're fucking deadly. I just hate this shit. It's just it's what we talked about, the idea of trading freedom for safety. And you might not think owning a gun is a freedom you need or even one that you want. I don't own a gun. but I don't like the idea of not being able to if I needed one, because there are needs for it.
Thank you, Timothy Seelbeck. That solves nothing because by law, we are already in the militia, most of us anyway.
True story.
Yeah. I heard something today on the radio when they were talking about this because I think there was a radio broadcast about Stephen's opinion. And I think it was a man on the street thing or something, or somebody said, you know, we need to have the ability to do something because the Second Amendment's so ironclad, anybody can get a gun. And I'm like, except for convicted felons, except for those that are deemed mentally unfit. I mean, there are lots and lots of laws that actually preempt the sort of, ironclad language of the Second Amendment because we're not all morons about it. It's not like, oh, anybody can have a gun.
Well, if you go back and look, he actually has a point, but it's the gun control side that keeps failing. If you look at Aurora, the shooting in Colorado, that guy was not supposed to be able to buy a gun. And he was still able to legally purchase one because the background check, those background checks we need so much more of, fucking failed. And then if you look at Sandy Hook, they worked there. He went to buy a gun and that you can't have one. So what did he do? He fucking stole them.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you. Nope. I think the idea of only criminals having access to firearms is much scarier than anything because only criminals buy illegal firearms. Literally the only people with guns would be criminals. Well, that's, because what was that cartoon I saw? Somebody said, oh, we can't ban abortions because then people would just go get them unsafely and illegally, and that'd be bad. Why do you ask? And they're holding a sign that says ban guns. And it's just like, So I'm not going to argue that there should be more resources put into ensuring that background checks are thorough and that the information found on one background check in state X is shared equally amongst the other states, that the network doing the information sharing operates well, because we saw down in Florida with the Stoneman-Douglas deal, they weren't sharing information. And I said it at the time, and I still stand completely by it. After 9/11, the whole idea behind Homeland Security and the Patriot Act and all the money we dumped into this shit was to try to prevent 9/11, because 9/11 was purportedly, depends on who you ask, but purportedly preventable if the different agencies with the different information they had on the hijackers that had come into the country ahead of time had been able to share the information. The puzzle pieces would have fallen together quicker and they would have been caught before they did anything. And since then, we spent billions and billions of dollars supposedly to do that very thing. But one idiot teenager in Florida is encountered by the cops, reported on by a bunch of people, either on YouTube or otherwise. There's at least 5 or 6 different instances where people were given a forewarning, this guy's a danger, and it did nothing. So I don't know how to fix that, but I know that should be the first thing we do, because it's bad enough that people are saying, oh, we need to do something more, when the things we do have already are not working. So we should fix what we already have in place. We have an infrastructure to try to resolve some of this, but it's either being defunded or understaffed or neglected in some fashion. I don't know. But anyway, I could go on.
They've made the NRA the boogeyman here.
Yeah.
The NRA absolutely spends a lot of money on elections. But you can still get elected without their seal of approval.
Yeah.
And you don't have to be a diehard gun nut to get it. All you have to be is like, I don't want to repeal the Second Amendment. And they'll take you over anybody who wants to. The funny part about this is I saw an argument earlier today on Twitter, and I forget who was arguing. It was Woz Lee arguing that nobody's actually proposing to get rid of the Second Amendment.
Horseshit.
There's tons of people doing it. No, sorry, no, that wasn't Woz. That was a wholly different argument. I forget who it was. That was a different one. I apologize to Woz.
Okay.
But yeah, nobody's actually trying to get rid of the Second Amendment. That's all just it's fear language. It's fear mongering. I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? You're gonna use fear mongering as an excuse here.
Well, people have been explicitly saying those exact words. So
yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
Maybe they're getting lost in translation.
Well, I mean, if you want to be technical about it, there's a difference between saying it should be and people actually taking steps to make it happen. Now, as the article said, the likelihood that one of the first 10 amendments would be repealed, given the process that's laid out in the Constitution, is pretty much zippo. You know, I'm not saying it's impossible, obviously. There is a process, there's a system. And if people were able to get enough representatives on board and or enough states on board to do it, hey, go for it. I'm in support of the Constitution. If someone can convince enough of the American population and the states therein that this needs to be done, I'm not going to stand in the way of a democracy, obviously, but the likelihood that it will be, given the fact that the language does not say what people say, it only applies to the militia. Yeah, except for that part where it says the right of the people and not the right of the soldier or something. Thank you, Dark Shade. Bit of a slippery slope, but imagine if this went through and then in the future, how they'd go about legislating rock and stick control. Yeah.
Well, you make a joke, but they just had a knife buyback in the UK. Because knives are the issue now.
Yeah,
you're never going to make yourself completely safe. You're just not.
If someone, look, it doesn't matter what the tool is. If someone is willing to risk their safety to do harm to others, they will likely succeed. Now, the scope in which they can cause damage, true, is increased with a gun versus a knife, necessarily.
Yeah,
well, it depends. You know,
depends.
Yeah, it depends on the circumstances. But generally speaking, if you can rattle off 30 bullets within 20 seconds and you can only stab 1 or 2 people within 20 seconds, you know, you're obviously going to have more possibility to do damage. Now, does that change the fact that people can be hurt? No. Change the number of people that can be hurt? Sure. But you're always going to have violence. You're always going to have people that are nuts. It's not going to change anything in that regard. It just might lessen the volume, I suppose.
What drives me crazy, though, is the fact that, let's just say this did happen. They got the gun reform or whatever that they wanted, and all the guns were taken out of all the people's hands that they didn't want to have them. When the next weapon of choice started to be used, then they'd be like, okay, well, now that thing is the problem. And they would just keep pushing until literally everybody is fucking wrapped in bubble wrap. It fucking rolled around.
Well, we've already seen the truck of peace.
Yeah, exactly.
And that a car is a dangerous weapon if that's what you want it to be.
Yeah.
As bad as what happened in Las Vegas was, somebody driving a truck through there would have been just devastating.
Yeah. And you can kill somebody with a pencil. I mean, if you decide to take something that's not designed to kill somebody, but could be used to kill someone or hurt somebody, what's going to stop you? So,
we'll see. Our world seems to, we seem to have the same issue that Ark has, because one of my biggest complaints about Ark is every fucking day they do an announcement about something new that they added into the game, and 98% of that game is still fucking broken. And I'm just like, the same things that have been broken since the game started are still broken, but every day you got something fucking new. Can you please fix what the fuck is here already?
I'm just glad to know that Satsu can take world events and politics and reduce it down to video games.
I mean, look, it's
fine. But I just love that. Thank you, Dark Shade. A knife buyback. Wonder how much my plastic picnic knives are worth. Well, in prison, those things can fucking kill you if you use them right.
Oh, sure.
You make a shiv. It's just like, all right. Anything else you want to say on that? Any other news stories that you know of off the top of your head? Otherwise, we got a backlog of MSS news.
No, I it's just stupid. Don't listen to that crazy old fucker.
Yeah. His opinion is just that. Like
he was an asshole when he was on the bench.
So guys, if you have news stories you'd like us to read on the air, even if they turn out to be fictional, because sometimes those are entertaining too, please send them to us via Twitter using the hashtag MSSNews. Cannot promise we'll get to them all, but we will give as many as we can a shot. So let me scroll down to something until I recognize something from yesterday, because wow, you guys have sent us a lot of stuff. Okay, I think that's where we left off. Okay. Okay, why not this? This one comes from Massive Dynamics. And if you guys see any super chats, let me know. I'm going to have different windows open here. Apple proposes 13 new emojis to represent people with disabilities. Okay, where's the ranting monkey emoji? Let's see. The emoji, I guess emoji is also its own plural, but it just says the emoji include guide dogs and hearing aids, with the tech giant claiming it wants to better represent people with disabilities. Oh, God. Apple has proposed a new set of emoji. Yeah. Let's see. Prosthetic limbs and people using canes and wheelchairs and hearing aids. Apple is, let's see, in a statement they said, Apple is requesting the addition of emoji to better represent individuals with disabilities. Currently, emoji provide a wide range of options that may not represent the experiences of those with disabilities. They're tiny little web cartoons. Anyway, thank you, Jenna P. For my inappropriate question at chat time, Sassy's fault. Uh-oh.
It's not my fault. Don't you blame me.
Oh, was it the inappropriate? You mean yesterday where you asked like how often do these guys get laid? Is that it?
Mm-hmm. It wasn't inappropriate. Have we reached a point of inappropriate questions? Like, have we ever gotten one of those where they're like, oh, that's not allowed here?
I think I guess it depends on what's being asked, but I think the only inappropriate question is the one you decide not to answer, I guess, maybe. I don't know. This one comes from Jim Heelis. Is this true? It's going to play a video on me. Yeah. God. And they jacked the volume up for some reason. Utah just passed America's first free-range parenting law.
Free-range parenting?
Okay. Utah has legalized a controversial child-rearing method known as free-range parenting that encourages the fostering of self-sufficiency in children from a young age, which is believed to be the first legislation of its kind in the United States. The so-called Free Range Kids Bill was signed into law by Republican Governor Gary Herbert on Friday after the State House and Senate voted unanimously to approve the legislation. Okay. The new law, which will take effect on May 8th, specifies that it is not a crime for parents to allow kids who display maturity and good judgment to do things like walk to school alone or play outside without supervision. Or, as I like to call it, what it was like growing up in the 80s.
Yeah, because I was walking to school by myself in fucking first grade.
Yeah.
Well, we had that case, a couple of years ago now where, parents got arrested for their kids playing at a playground just down the street.
Yeah, it was like 2 blocks from their house, and the kids were out there alone, and somebody called the cops. These kids have been abandoned or neglected or something, and then the parents got arrested. And they're like, that was California, wasn't it?
I don't remember. I just remember the case.
I seem to recall it might have. I could be mistaken, but it sounds like a California thing.
I feel like
we were ordered out of the house often when I was a kid. Get out of the house, go play.
Oh yeah, and it's shit like this on top of the just bad parenting in general that has forced this generation to be so goddamn soft.
Prospero says Maryland. Okay, well, wrong side of the country, but either way. When I was a kid, I remember that my parents they walked me to the school a couple of times in the beginning just to make sure I knew the route so I wouldn't get lost. But I mean, I was almost always walking with other kids in the neighborhood. Like we'd all end up walking to school around the same time. So we just end up going as a pack. And so there'd be like 5 or 6 of us all going at the same time. So I was never really alone going to school unless it was like some kind of weird day or something. But yeah, this, and then we were talking about this last night. This is part of having a kid build their own sense of independence and moving through the world without a safety net every fucking second.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway. And this was all fueled on by child abductions.
Yes. Which
don't generally happen that often. And the vast majority of them are custodial disputes, not your what was his name? Adam.
Adam Walsh.
Well, Adam Walsh, yeah, not that kind of story.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I this isn't the 80s no more. Yeah, you're right, but it's also not as horrible as everyone wants. It's this whole concept of fear. I mean, this is I
feel like the technology we have today and the fact that every fucking kid like 5 and up has a cell phone at this point. Like, I think we can let up a little bit.
You can basically LoJack your kid at this point.
I find it ridiculous they have to legislate this. It's like, we've passed a law that says, parents, you can raise your kids as you see fit. It's just,
right.
Thank you, Dark Shade. Go play outside, honey. Mommy needs some quiet time.
Oh, no. My mom was far more blunt about it than that. It was, go play outside. You're driving me nuts.
Oh.
Like, okay.
Yeah,
she was. I get what he's getting at there, but no.
Quiet time with my laurels. Let's see. This one comes from senior.
Don't rest on your laurels.
And Chief Florida correspondent Colleen Bernier. Man found with heroin and meth in his pockets says pants aren't his.
Well,
was he wearing them at the time?
Yeah.
The next question is, whose pants are they?
Okaloosa County, Florida. Okaloosa County Sheriff's deputies arrested a man reportedly having several narcotics in his possession. According to the sheriff's office, a deputy on Beale Parkway spotted a man asleep in a vehicle with the engine running at a convenience store. After waking the man up, the canine with the deputy alerted him that there may be something in the vehicle. Deputies found a black case in 43-year-old Chester Walker's pants pocket with heroin, crack cocaine, methamphetamine, fentanyl, alprazolam, quetiapine, fumarate, and a needle. He's more of a pharmacy than Monkey is.
Jesus Christ.
Walker reportedly told the deputies the pants he was wearing were not his. Thank you, Dark Shade. Monkey's mom had nuts. Oh, sure. Oh, you're driving me nuts. Let's see. Okay, yeah.
I hope they weren't his. I hope he borrowed somebody's pants that had all that shit in them.
Oh, this is actually kind of on point for what Monkey was doing just before the stream. This also comes from Colleen Bernier. World's cheesiest pizza ever created, topped with 11 varieties.
Oh. Seems like a lot to me.
Yeah, a restaurant has created the world's cheesiest ever pizza with nearly a 1/4 kilogram of cheese on a single pie. Good God, that sounds like a heart attack waiting to happen. A restaurant is created, Vadoli in Berlin, Germany. Oh, is Minding Freedom in the channel? You can go check it out. Was recognized by Guinness World Records officials earlier this month after topping its pizza with 111 different varieties. Is that all it takes to get into the world record? Just buy 100?
Man, you can do anything to get in that fucking book.
The restaurant has taken the title from a small pizzeria in Portland, Oregon, which was previously awarded after crafting its 101 cheese pizza. Oh, okay, I guess 111 different varieties. That is a lot of different cheeses.
There's no way you get all of it in a bite of pizza.
Yeah, I mean, you'd have to evenly spread or do like layers of it over and over again and just layer it up so it's all over the pizza, maybe. So you could do it.
That's lasagna.
Dairy expert, they have those? Okay. Dairy expert Martina Loescher, who assessed the cheeses, joined Judge Lena Kuhlman for the tasting. Quote, every bite tastes different, Lena said. The crust and the base look crispy, and none of it is burnt. Oh, great. So, sadly, the pizza was a one-off. Apparently, they're not going to sell that kind of pizza again. So it just, okay. That's what it takes.
Just imagine having 100 different cheeses on hand at all times to make that fucking pizza. That's insane.
Let's do one more from Colleen real quick because this.
I just see a world war starting over pizza toppings.
If we get to that point, I think Soylent Green is people at that point.
How sad is it that the Italians aren't part of this?
Oh, yeah. Well, are the Italians more for cheese, though?
But they're pizza.
Yeah. Let's see. So this one, teacher ditches job to become full-time dominatrix with 2 live-in slaves that she walks on dog leashes. Jesus Christ.
Hey, look.
At
Sometimes
least
you want to be a teacher. Sometimes you want to be a dominatrix.
At least she didn't blow one of her students.
That we know of. I wonder if she just sits at home while her slaves earn all the money. Let's find out. A dominatrix reveals she has 2 24/7 live-in slaves who wait on her and her boyfriend hand and foot. Oh my God. That is uber cuck.
You're paying to be a slave, jackass.
Dahlia Rain from New Jersey shares her home with the men who cook, clean, tidy, buy groceries, and walk the dog in return for rewards, quote unquote, of the BDSM kind. The former school teacher was once married but got bored of her vanilla lifestyle. Quote, everybody comes into fetish at different times of their life. I did the normal housewife thing, but there were things that were missing. I wanted some more excitement, and they were things my ex-husband didn't want, okay? After divorcing from her husband, Dahlia started to dip her toes into the fetish scene. Quote, I started meeting more kinky people and going to fetish parties, and then it just became part of my life. It was here that she met her slaves, another name given to submissive partners in BDSM relationships, and her boyfriend, John, whom they also cater to when he visits. Dahlia said, quote, people ask what's the difference between a sub and a boyfriend, and there are big differences. I don't have sex with my subs. There's no sexual relationship at all. That's a fantasy. I get a lot of emails and messages from people wanting to be my sex slave and be tied up in my bedroom for 24 hours a day, but that's not the type of dominance I do. The 35-year-old said no money changes hands between herself and her subs, Chris and Mike, a.k.a. Fluffy.
How does she pay the bills?
That's what I'm wondering. Let's see if she says. I'm going to skip down a bit. Lots and lots of pictures of her and her slaves and her boyfriend.
Yeah, I was looking for the story. I want to see her.
John Fathom.
There she is. Oh.
John Fathom. She's not bad looking. Dahlia's boyfriend said when she first met Dahlia, she seemed like a strong character who would allow him to be himself. Right, but what does she do? Okay, so John is a 41-year-old artist and business owner and said he discovered Dahlia has slaves the first time he was out with her at a fetish party. But what does she do? I don't think they say.
Yeah, the teaser on this says that they buy groceries, so I'm betting no money might change hand, but they're still paying her way.
I'm hearing Monkey break up a little bit. My internet connection has been a little choppy the last day or so during the stream, so if I start cutting out, I'm just warning you ahead of time. It might last a minute or two, and if you warn me about it, I'll shut up and just let it peter itself out. Let's see. What else do we have?
But real quick, she left her husband because he wouldn't get into this. Guys, this is why you beat your wives. They like it.
Well, no. This is why you get very communicative with your partner before you marry them.
Well, from what she said, I mean, that wouldn't have helped because she was into the normal stuff at first.
Yeah. Well, but she wasn't happy. It's like, I'm not happy. I wonder if she gave him. I wonder if she gave him a chance. What?
Did you see the story from Colleen about the Florida woman? I'm just going to read it since I have it up.
Okay.
Florida woman accused of incest with her brother after delivering baby with medical issues.
Oh, for fuck's sake.
And this comes to us from People magazine, so this isn't like, WorldNet Daily. A 33-year-old woman has been charged with incest in Florida, where that's how we give Florida man incest. Where authorities allege DNA testing revealed the baby she delivered 4 months ago was fathered by a close relative, People confirms.
Ugh.
On November 21st, Pauline Elizabeth Martin gave birth to a baby with several medical problems, according to an arrest affidavit obtained by People. Within hours of its birth, the newborn was transferred to Winnie Palmer. Whoops.
Winnie. Hey,
Winnie Palmer is a whole different thing. Winnie Palmer Hospital for Women and Babies in Orlando. Authorities started looking into Martin after she failed to fill out the necessary paperwork so the child could be placed in a home for medically complex children.
At least it wasn't Winnie Cooper.
Yeah, Winnie Cooper was so hot.
Oh, man, she was.
Or the poo.
There was that one episode where Soleil Moonfry showed up, and I was like,
yeah.
"Oh, dude, drop Winnie Cooper. There's Soleil Moonfry."
Let's see. Officers with the Lake County Sheriff's Office then spoke to Martin, who allegedly confessed the father of her baby was her brother, according to the affidavit. She allegedly said that 3 years ago she moved in with her brother outside of Orlando, and they began living as a couple for 5 years. Martin said she planned to end the relationship, but admitting to having sexual intercourse with her sibling as recently as the night before the authorities interviewed her.
Wow.
And if you see her picture, yeah, I could see her banging her brother. Dear Christ.
In tangentially related news, kind of, sort of, this one was sent to us both by Shady Grin and Corey. I'm not surprised this is a thing. Planned Parenthood. Quote, "We need a Disney princess who's had an abortion."
Oh, for fuck's sake.
Is this real? Nothing is sacred to Planned Parenthood except the mass killing of unborn babies. Oh, this is from lifenews.com. So they have a little bit of an agenda. They're showing a screen cap of the tweet they put out. Planned Parenthood tweeted out these messages today, it looks like. One says, "We need a Disney princess who's had an abortion. We need a Disney princess who's pro-choice. We need a Disney princess who's an undocumented immigrant. We need a Disney princess who's actually a union worker. And we need a Disney princess who's trans."
Don't forget, we also need an AR-15 Disney princess.
Yes.
Yeah, can we have a Disney princess from the NRA? You know, full diversity and representation.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to read the rest of the story because there's not really a story to it other than Planned Parenthood is just being, or at least the person running Planned Parenthood's Twitter. Let me say that. Whoever's running their Twitter is just being silly.
I want to read one more before we move on. I know we're getting close to the time and I wasn't sure what you were doing, but I want to read this one because it's funny.
Okay.
I'm sorry. I already closed Twitter. So I was with the connection issue, making sure it wasn't me. So I don't know who sent this. French waiter says firing for rudeness is discrimination against my culture.
Izzy Untitled sent that, and I think I might have seen someone. Subcon Jazz and Izzy sent that. At least there might be others.
There you go. Thank you, guys. This is from The Guardian. So again, this is not some bullshit. It might be bullshit, but it's a legitimate news source. A French waiter fired for being aggressive, rude, and disrespectful says his behavior wasn't out of line. He's just French. Guillaume Ray, who worked at Vancouver restaurant on Canada's Pacific Coast, filed a complaint with the British Columbia Human Rights Tribunal after his former employer claiming discrimination against my culture. Excuse me. The restaurant, operated by Cara Operations, accused Ray of violating its code of conduct and said he persisted in his behavior despite verbal and written performance reviews. In alleging discrimination, Ray said French culture just tends to be more direct and expressive. He owes his sacking to his direct, honest, and professional personality, which he acquired while training in France's hospitality industry.
Oh, wow.
So the French are just dicks. That's a great discrimination lawsuit right there.
Thank you, Gregory Hurst. All that and that princess ain't getting no prince.
Yeah.
Prince is dead. One more. I saw this all over Twitter today, and I'm sure it's going to be funny because it is funny. This was posted to us from Paul Smith, although I think a couple other people posted it as well, so sorry about that. Go away. Okay, Toronto chef cuts deer's leg in front of vegan protesters.
Oh, yeah, I saw that.
Toronto, in a counter-protest of its own kind, the co-owner of a Toronto restaurant has responded to animal rights activists by cutting up a deer leg in front of them, prompting reactions from the Twitter. A group of local vegan protesters had arranged a protest in front of the restaurant Antler, known for serving, quote, local, seasonal, and wild foods, unquote, that are native to Canada, such as bison, boar, rabbit, duck, and deer. The restaurant's co-owner and chef, Michael Hunter, Michael Hunter, nice, reportedly brought out an entire animal leg and started cutting it up right in the window on a table reserved for diners. What's all the noise?
That's squishy.
Oh, okay. Quote, Antler is one of my fave restaurants. Vegans are free to protest peacefully outside, but Chef Hunter also has the right to carve a deer window side in his own restaurant. That's pretty funny.
You know what I would do if I was him? And this is just because I'm a bastard. If they sell it, I would carve a rabbit in front of them.
Oh, geez.
Because they're cuter.
Thank you, Dark Shade. Undocumented immigrant and union worker princesses sound to me about as logical as an Islamic feminist or gay Muslim. Well,
we did have an Islamic princess, but she didn't blow anybody up.
That's true. Yeah, Jasmine was presumably. Let's see.
I wonder if
we had a voodoo princess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just wonder how many of the people, because I'm not pro-Muslim, I'm pretty much against them, but like all the people who are like militantly anti-Islam, what would happen to them if they sat down and watched Aladdin today? Because like, I mean, the little fat what are they called, the leaders?
The Sultan.
The Sultan, thank you. He's constantly thanking Allah.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah, her father actually says, yeah, Allah forbid at one point. And I didn't even remember it till I sat down and watched it with little, but I'm like, oh wow, this has a lot of Allah references. But anyway, sorry.
Yeah, back when nobody gave a shit.
Yeah.
Well, guys, thank you so much for the news stories. Always appreciate them. If we run into some free time later, maybe we'll try to grab a couple more. But now it's time for YouTube time. So, Satsu, what were you up to today?
I put out a kind of rambly video today, just about a bunch of shit that's been on my mind, because I was thinking about exactly what topic I was going to talk about, but no topic was like video length worthy. Wow. So I just talked about a bunch of random shit.
Okay. So you're taking the mundane math school of video making.
Well, I mean, I think his individual videos still have like topics or whatever. But this was just like, I was straight up just talking about. It was like, this thing happened and this is also annoying. And I'm also thinking about doing this. Yeah, it was all over the place. But yeah, that's what I had going on. Nothing major.
Okay. Do you have, you guys do 7 days on what, Wednesdays and Fridays, was it?
Friday, Saturday, and Sunday.
Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Okay, sorry. Monkey, what have you been up to?
I had Little Butt today.
How is Little Butt?
Oh, she's good. She's good. We played Play-Doh and we played blocks. She loves Legos. I mean, that's what we spend most of our time doing. And she tells me how I need to play Legos. And she'll tell me like to build something, and I'll start to build it. And every block I take is one she needs.
Of course it is.
It's amazing how that works. But yeah, so I did that today, and then I took a very, very long nap because I didn't sleep last night. So yeah, I didn't do anything. I before Little Butt got here, I was catching up on the Andy Worski drama. We'll get to that in a little bit. But that's all I have. Okay.
I put out a video this morning, early this morning, like hours and hours and hours before the stream, which is a rarity. So there's this little, I guess, web show series from NBC called Left Field, which might give you an indication as to what kind of content they deal with. And it's a very weird video. The first, I mean, it's only 4 minutes long or so, but the first like 30 seconds seems to indicate that they're about to tell us the truth about Martin Luther King Jr. in the sense that, you know, the legend of the man does not conform to the reality of how he actually behaved or lived or something. Like, you know, what you know about him is not true. Like, oh, okay, so this is going to be sort of a remember everyone's human kind of thing or something, I guess. It didn't seem like it was trying to be an expose or derogatory necessarily, but okay. But the video isn't about that. If they had said something, and one of my viewers brought this up, is that if they'd said something like, oh, Martin Luther King was known as a devout Christian, blah, 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 but he also had numerous affairs of infidelity against his wife, etc. Like, oh, so he wasn't a perfect human. They never did that. All they did was go over things like Dr. King was against police brutality. Dr. King protested. Dr. King was passionate or something. I'm like, uh-huh. And
was their source listed a pamphlet on Dr. King?
Well, that's the thing. That's just it. I kept waiting for like, okay, what's the twist here? But they started hinting at it in the first couple of deals where, just like today, Dr. King was talking about police brutality and how it had to stop. And then they quote like one sentence from a speech he gave or an interview he gave. And I found the interview, he was specifically talking about the police activity in disrupting their protests in the South, their marches. Mm-hmm. And I sort of stopped and I said, so wait a sec, are you trying to equate how the police in the South behaved in the 60s with how they behave today? Are you nuts? I mean, don't get me wrong, police aren't perfect or anything, but there's a big difference between turning on the fire hoses on everybody and just sort of standing back in Charlottesville and letting the shit go down, Mm-hmm. But anyway, it eventually moves on to where basically they're saying, and they make all these comparisons to Black Lives Matter and later specifically Colin Kaepernick.
What?
Well, so again, this is a very confusing video because it's not telling us, it tells us one thing and as though that's the topic or thesis, and then it moves into other shit. But basically it's trying to tell us that if you have a negative opinion about Black Lives Matter, and or Colin Kaepernick, and or the Ferguson protesters, they kind of put them all in one big mass. You, therefore, must not actually appreciate Dr. King because Black Lives Matter, Kaepernick, Ferguson, and Dr. King all employed the same tactics and core beliefs and values.
First of all, no, they didn't.
Well, I know. And it's ridiculous. The whole thing is just like, okay, you want to talk about apples and oranges here. It's like, what? I point out, it's like, okay, what did Dr. King do for his protests? Well, passive resistance, peace, nonviolence, and, playing within the system to change the system. Black Lives Matter has rioted, burned down cities, caused damage, influenced people to take action against police officers, has called for the death of police officers, has said white people are genetically inferior. I left out, and I kind of regret this now because I thought it was too on the nose, but I left out the part where some Black Lives Matter guy said Dr. Martin Luther King sucked or whatever it was.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just such a weird video that is trying to deny reality to make their point.
From the sounds of it, it reminds me of Marina Shut-Up's video that I responded to. Mm. And Kat Black had done a similar one at the same time, where both of them take what King actually said completely out of the context he said
right. It. Yeah. Yeah, and they do that a couple of times in the course of the video where they play little clips of him speaking and to try to underscore whatever point they're making. I only really researched the one speech because I was trying to think like, well, in what context is he talking about police brutality? And of course, it was specifically to the South, specifically to the interaction by police with their peaceful protests, which is different than just saying police brutality is a scourge in the whole country.
Okay.
Yeah.
You keep talking. I'm writing something down.
Okay.
I got a deep topic now.
Okay. Anyway, so that's the video I did. I also have a quick kind of weird update on a video I did previous. A few days ago, I did a video from Fusion about a pair of guys in Oakland who were extolling the virtues of, several things about illegal immigrants and everything, but basically being anti-ICE and also talking about how they set up sort of a a phone tree warning system so that people could call in and tell other people what ICE was doing or where they were, so they could presumably be aware, but probably just avoid them, etc. Sometime either yesterday or the day before, Fusion took that video down. Like, they removed their own video. If you go to the link I put on my video, doesn't go anywhere. The user removed the video. And I thought that was kind of odd. And I don't know why, obviously. I have no belief that anything having to do with my video led to that. I have a feeling, though, given the fact that I haven't seen Fusion post a video about illegal immigration since when they became, or they divided off into Splinter. I have a feeling that maybe somebody accidentally posted it to Fusion when they should have posted it to Splinter.
Oh yeah, that could be, because it seemed out of place.
Or we will see that same video show up with Splinter's branding in the next several days or so, because Fusion has seemed to focus more on, I'm going to say in general terms, human interest stories since the division to Splinter. Like they had a lot of videos on drag queens and like a bunch of random stuff. I don't think they've quite found their grounding yet. But Splinter has become mostly their socio-political arm of media content. Yeah. So anyway, I don't know why that happened. A viewer pointed that out to me. I found it interesting, though, because so far as I can recall, I've never had that happen with one of the established outlets before, save for the Lala. Oh, I miss the Lala.
You got a super chat.
I know. I was just reminiscing about Molly for a second. For those of you that know a lot of Scribe Light lore. Thank you, Sanguine. Ah, yes, we all remember when MLK burned down Selma and torched Birmingham, just like Ferguson and BLM. Quote, I have a dream that we will burn their shit down. They can afford it. Yes.
There you go.
They even bring up the point in there. It's like, well, Martin Luther King went to jail on was arrested 30 different times in his life. Trying to draw like comparisons between Dr. King being arrested and actions being taken by Black Lives Matter. And I'm like, yeah. And what was he arrested for? Bullshit, because they were basically harassing him. And I went down like some examples like, not obeying a police order and loitering and all this other bullshit. And you know what he did when he got arrested? He served his time and appealed peacefully, just like all those Ferguson protesters who obviously were innocent of what they were doing, turned themselves in and faced the music in order to show the system was corrupt.
You know what he didn't do? Reach for the cop's gun.
Oh, God. Yeah. Well, anyway. So that's the video I put out today. And if you're curious about a video that may or may not come back, you can go look at the latest edition of Expatriate Games that I've got up. And with that, I guess we're into YouTube drama time. And Monkey is our YouTube drama king today because he knows more than I do, it sounds like.
Real quick.
Go ahead. Yep. Go ahead.
Monkey, before we go there, anybody who watched my video today, there was like a small rant about modern gaming today and the issue because of the Sea of Thieves release. A lot of people have been trying to tell me to buy Sea of Thieves or whatever, and I am not spending $60 on that shit. I'm not even getting the Microsoft Pass to get it for $10 because it's not even worth that. But I will be elaborating on that rant on 2 Cents Plus probably tomorrow, so be on the lookout for that video.
Sorry. Okay. No, you're fine. You're fine. Before we get into the actual drama, I do want to bring up Mad Woman Muses. She has been a pretty staunch supporter of mine for a long time now, and her daughter just lost a battle with a rare disease. Oh. She has a GoFundMe up for the funeral cost. If you don't mind, I'm going to throw it into the chat.
Yeah, you got it. Let me.
So guys, if you can donate anything, she's a great person. She does a morning show on her channel, which is on pause, obviously, for a while. But it sucks. I know people say this doesn't. My heart goes out to her. It really does.
Yeah. You got the link for me?
Yeah. Let me. I'll send it to you on Twitter here.
Oh, okay. Guys, I'm going to update the description with the link here in just a minute as soon as I get it from Monkey. And If you have any notion of doing super chats or anything else tonight, please first consider going over to the GoFundMe instead, because that's.
There she is. Hi, I am so sorry to hear that.
Yeah. Thank you, Chaos Eve. As someone who played the beta, Sea of Thieves is only fun if you have a group to play it with. Otherwise, don't waste your time or money.
And even if you have a group to play it with, that novelty goes away very quickly. Like it's like, oh wow, that was fun, but after like 2 or 3 hours, you pretty much would have done everything you can do, and unless you just like doing the same thing over and over, then it won't last very long.
Let me make sure this is going to work real quick. Okay, there we go. Got that. All right, this is a second, guys. And okay, so if you refresh your page real quick, the link should be there in the description. And by all means, go donate there. Let's see. As of this moment, it is at $390 of a $2,000 goal. So we'll check in on that as the night proceeds. And all my condolences go out to Maddie and her family, and that's awful.
Yeah, somebody had me share it earlier, and it's gone up a bit since earlier.
Okay.
So.
Yeah.
All right, guys.
And I apologize. I had that at the beginning of the show, and you guys, I got here so late, and I should have done that at the beginning. But anything you guys can do would help. So now we get to move on to the more fun stuff. It sounds like JF and Andy are breaking up.
It sounds like it.
Sounds like it.
Dude, I wish I had a sad violin to play somehow.
I think Andy was saying that it wasn't happening, though. We'll see.
Well, Andy is still trying to be amicable, and we'll get to that in a second. So what happens is the other day on Andy's stream, JF is talking with somebody. Andy tries to interject, and JF tells him to shut the fuck up, which offended Andy, who then goes on the Kumite, and with Medicare there and Tonka Failure, I'm not sure who the other voice I was hearing there. It kind of sounded like Schmeckel, but that doesn't seem right. So I'm not sure who that last person was. But anyway, they start egging him on and talking about how JF has, taken over his show. They actually tell him that JF has cucked him, asking him, does JF come over and fuck your girlfriend too?
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah. And they were having fun, but they were also kind of being insulting to Andy. As I put on Twitter, they were his friends were basically calling him a moronic pussy. Yeah, Baked Alaska was on there too, but there was another voice that I was hearing, and I'm not sure who that was. So yeah, they're going over, because Andy's like, I want to change the show. He says he only wants to do a major debate once a week, and the rest of the shows that he would do would be, more fun stuff like just chatting with people. Well, JF hears this and does his own stream last night, apparently while we were streaming. And while we were streaming, somebody brought this up to us, and in chat they said, well, Andy was talking to JF on that stream, and it seemed okay. I watched that whole damn stream, and they're not wrong. Andy gets on pretty early, and him and JF have a discussion, and yeah, it goes very well. And then as soon as Andy leaves, JF just starts ripping into him.
Oh, Jesus.
Talking about how he's a lazy, pot smoking, basically moron. But
he knows this is recorded, right?
Yeah, he did. He recorded it on purpose. Not only does he know it was recorded, he was recording it a second time because he did this on his live stream channel. Oh, and kind of like Mundane Matt, what he does is he records on his live stream channel and then makes a video out of it.
Yeah.
So yeah, he recorded all of this. And as it goes on, I mean, it just gets worse and worse. But there's a great part in this where Andy's in the chat and JF is bitching at him, saying that the reason Andy can't have the fun shows that he wants is because Andy's lazy and won't do any like booking for the show, won't go out and get guests. So Andy tells him in the chat, I'll start doing that. and it makes JF cry. I am not kidding. Not a little bit. I mean, tears running down his nose. He had to blow his nose.
Because Andy said he would start working to book people?
Yeah, because and because he says this showed that Andy was growing up.
What?
Right before his eyes, he was crying because it made him so happy to see Andy growing up before his eyes. Oh yeah,
okay.
it's fucking surreal.
Jean-Francois. I love Jean-Francois.
Yeah, so I want to make sure I get. Oh, there's also a really great part at the because he spends like almost an hour before he starts the recording part, and there's actually a part where he sings "I'm a Barbie Girl"
from Aqua.
Yes.
Thank you, Sanguine. Frogs aren't known for bravery.
Yeah. I'm watching this shit. I'm like, what the fuck am I watching? And then he just goes. He spends the rest of the time. 1 second here. The rest of the time just fucking dogging on Andy. And this is after he's cried about how much Andy's, he just saw Andy grow. But yeah, he spends literally like another hour and a half just bitching about how horrible Andy is, how lazy he is. And he also, somebody sent JF a couple of screenshots that apparently are from some secret group, like the Kraut server.
The Illuminati.
Yes. Where there's people out there trying to break up JF and Andy.
Break them up.
Stargazer Nuts says they're doing a stream now. Yeah, I'll probably watch it. But so Andy goes on the Kumite again today, and I didn't get to watch all of that because there just wasn't time. But he's trying to be very amicable still, but you can tell he's pissed off. He's mad, but he's not saying JF can't be on his show anymore. That's not what he said.
Holy cow! Real quick, Monkey. So the fundraiser for Maddie was at $390 when we started. It's now at $740.
Yeah,
you guys are fucking awesome.
And special shout out to whoever John Morris is for $300 donation. You guys are just
that's amazing.
You guys are just great. I don't know what else to say, but we'll keep an eye on it for the course of the stream. And obviously it's going to be there. If anybody listening to this tomorrow or whenever you're at work and everything, please consider taking a look at that when you have a chance. All right. Sorry, Monkey.
Yeah. And if we don't hit it by tomorrow's show, it'll be linked again. So
yeah, exactly.
So yeah, that's where we're at. Andy obviously pissed off and people have been putting in his head, JF is running your show. And he talked quite a bit about that. But JF is saying, the only reason I run the show is because you're too lazy to do anything, so I have to. And I don't know. Watching it is just kind of funny. And
go ahead.
I'm interested to see where it goes from here because they're not wrong about JF controlling Andy's show.
Well, once again, I saw Mr. Dusty Smith sounding off about it, and he was just like, "Oh, you mean the white nationalist that you let on your show and blah 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 blah, and now you're wondering why nobody else wants to work with you?" Because he was saying that Andy was complaining that now that he has associated himself with all these nationalist and fucked up people, that nobody wants to work with him, or whatever. And I looked at Dusty's comment, and I noticed something, and this is a recurring theme with Dusty. So I asked him a simple question. Naturally, I didn't get a response, but I was like, how come you never tag the people you talk shit about?
Yeah.
And I'm just like, And I didn't expect him to respond, and he didn't, but
there was so much said there's actually one part of this stream where JF says Andy has always had way too many subs for the talent that he has.
Okay.
He also takes credit for all of Andy's recent success. Now, we need to address that because Andy's recent success is entirely the fault of Kraut.
Yes.
That's where his numbers went up. And while JF was on the first stream that they did about it, he wasn't a major player in that. Andy brought him in after. But yeah, Andy was complaining that that even friends of his won't come on the show because it's been so tied to white nationalism. And JF addresses this, and he says, if you just keep getting bigger, they will come. They will come.
Pat says, Dusty is to Andy like Christy Winters is to Bering. Obsessed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But if I heard either of you say that I was overrated, we would have words. I'm just saying, because that's what he's saying there. He has too many subs. That's what he said. Too many subs. Go fuck yourself, man.
There are some YouTube personalities who I could say the number of subs you have do not make sense for your content. At the same time, it's kind of like people like what they like. So,
exactly.
You know, I mean, like, just because I don't like your content doesn't mean that the 9 million people or whatever, like with PewDiePie or Paul. I suddenly forgot his first name because I don't give a shit about him. Jake Paul, yeah, and all those guys. It's like you're overrated, or you're what, like, by, in your opinion. That's just your opinion, man.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, some channels are overrated. Sure. I mean, right now there's a trend going on where these channels are getting millions of subscribers within weeks, and they're literally ASMR channels of people cutting soap. So. Yeah.
I have a problem with the idea of a channel being overrated. If people want to tune in and watch, that's great. And I don't care how stupid the content is. It's seriously that guy who sits in a corner for 4 hours and people tune in and watch the whole goddamn thing, more power to him. The bitch who presses her face into bread, good for her.
I wish I could get like a famous and/or paid for pushing my face into bread.
No shit.
It doesn't sound like a very secure line of work, but
well, the comment of it being overrated though is still kind of in it, because a lot of the people who are subscribed to a lot of these channels aren't all subscribed because they like it. Yeah. You know, so there's also people who are just like, I like watching dumpster fires.
Well, Jack Cochran just commented, stupid content, stop talking shit about my channel, monkey. I really wish I wish Jack would get noticed and become one of those channels that has like 10 million viewers who watch every fucking video and it's just him filming his laundry. That would make my life complete. That would be awesome. But to have your co-host publicly tell everybody you suck, which is basically what he did. Man, I don't know how you work together after that. But
let's find out. Everybody, monkey sucks.
Eat me, bitch.
He blows big fatty peanut butter chunks.
Definitely overrated. 6 out of 10 won't watch again.
Fuck all y'all. Fuck both of y'all. I'm gonna mute them both. Yeah. No, I just I don't know how they come back after that, except for the fact that Andy's Canadian and not French Canadian, and he's already on the Kumite today. He like calmed down quite a bit. I mean, he's still mad, but I still want to work with JF. I'm like, did you watch what he said about you?
Monkey, I got a theory real quick though. Thank you, Chaos Eve. Everyone should sub to the Jack Cochran. Seriously. Yeah. I mean, you want to talk about like calming ASMR stuff, just the sound and or the side of just laundry. If you're like working or something, you got the laundry machine going off on the side.
Best laundry videos on YouTube.
Monkey, here's a theory. Conspiracy theory. What if all of this is manufactured drama?
Oh.
I considered that, but watching JF cry.
Did you see tears? Did you see tears?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
I mean, this dude wells up and cries, man. And then he defends himself for crying because it's good for you, which I agree with. I don't
manufactured tears.
He's not that good of an actor.
I don't know.
I do think Andy made a mistake bringing in a white nationalist who fucks retarded Mexicans, and for the good of his channel, I think a breakup would actually make sense. But it's their show, and I wish them well with whatever way they go.
So what was JF doing before the Andy thing? Like how was his like what is he? Okay.
He would record himself responding to videos, and the best one he ever got noticed for was his responding to Kraut's Trout's having babies video.
Oh yeah, the pregnant trout.
Yeah, he's just a white nationalist, and every so often some racists find him and start watching him. That's it.
Let's see, we got about 10 minutes before the bottom of the hour. Monkey, you said you had a deep topic.
I do, and I don't know if we can get into it real deep, but I'm gonna try it anyway. Talking about Martin Luther King.
Yeah.
We don't know what how his views would have changed if he lived.
True.
If you look at like Jesse Jackson, Jesse was there beside Martin Luther King when he died. He was one of his, for lack of a better word, disciples.
Mm-hmm.
And if you see what Jesse Jackson has become, it's a disgrace to King's legacy. He's a race baiting dickball. That said, you can't take what they used to be and change it like they were trying to do with this BLM video that you watched. And I've seen this with Kennedy a lot too. John Kennedy would not be a Democrat by modern standards. He just wouldn't be.
No.
He was a Catholic. He would be if he didn't have some major political shift. He would be against abortion. He probably would have been against gay marriage. I just see this hero worship of it's almost the opposite of what they do with Hitler, where you compare somebody to Hitler and they're obviously bad, but then you take King or Kennedy and you compare him to something and they're the greatest, because they did this with Barack Obama. Actually, they compared him to Kennedy a lot.
Well, nothing raises your stature, and I'm being a little morbid here, but nothing raises your stature in the American consciousness than dying young.
Sure,
James Dean, he did like what, 3 movies or something, and he died before Rebel Without a Cause came out, like just very shortly before, and suddenly, revered forever. John F. Kennedy cut down, Martin Luther King cut down, Bobby Kennedy cut down, because that puts a punctuation mark on a life in such a dramatic, especially when it's done by someone intentionally to take out someone who is a leader of some kind. You become a martyr for whatever causes you either professed just prior, or the successes you made just before, or what people imagined you might do next that you can never do now. I'm not saying that somehow delegitimizes the good things about JFK or the good things that Martin Luther King said, but adding on an assassination, a political assassination, to a mythology is a real quick way to raise your profile in history. Not a good way, not a happy way, but it is the way.
But to me, it's very much, and I hate comparing Hitler and Kennedy, but the way that they're viewed, I guess, or used, the way they're used today is asinine. It's as though the people doing it have no idea who they really were.
Right.
Hitler wasn't just somebody who didn't like other colors. This was a horrible, horrible man. And Kennedy, Kennedy was a Catholic. That was actually a really big thing. He was the first Catholic president.
Yes, that was a big thing at the time. It was like, oh my God,
we elected a Catholic. I mean, that was a thing. I mean, just back in the 60s. But it gets to me because the Martin Luther King one is really getting bad. From what we know of King right before he died, BLM would make him fucking sick. They are all about color over character rather than the other way around. And I don't know. I just don't. It's another one of these situations. It's how can you use the memory of these people and not even know who they were?
Well, yeah. I mean, it depends on what context you're using them in, I suppose. But I make this point in the video. They start out the video about how, the rosy image that people have about Martin Luther King isn't accurate, and a lot of it's just wrong. And I'm like, okay, well, and I said in the video, I'll grant you that. I mean, it's usually the case that the people that we revere from either the near or distant past were not as bright and shiny as, legend may hold. Because at the end of the day, they were only human. So there's probably a whole bunch of contradictions and hypocrisies and such. In the case of King, that doesn't matter to me because I don't hold the man up high so much as I hold the ideals he professed and advocated for up high. It's sort of like with Christopher Hitchens made this point all the time. If you told a diehard Christian that Jesus wasn't real, he was a fake character made up, they'd probably blow a gasket. And some people apparently, and he said this in a couple of his speeches, said some people would say, well, Socrates wasn't real. So a lot of the stuff that you talk about, the Socratic method's probably a bunch of bullshit too. And he said, you know what? I don't care if Socrates was real. The method of critical thinking and interrogation that is called the Socratic method is what is important. The idea is important, not necessarily the source, because you could have somebody horrible say something absolutely profound. Does that make the profound thing somehow now invalid because the person it came out of is awful?
2018 answer, yes.
Thank you, Satsu, for shooting me down. Now to the winner.
Yeah, where the hell did it come up? Socrates isn't real?
There's a theory that Socrates is sort of an amalgamation of a bunch of different philosophers or there's some theory that his teachings actually came from a different historical figure of some kind, and it's sort of like the Shakespeare theory.
Why is this always a thing? Jesus Christ!
I don't know. It's like I don't. I mean, for the sake of like maybe discovery of historical record or for advancement of our knowledge of the past and the figures therein, it's important. But in an attempt to invalidate or try to call into question an idea or a method of thinking separate from the individual. I did a video a few back where somebody said, we can't have the conversation where the founding fathers, for all the good that they did, they were horrible racists. And I was kind of like, it is true that having great ideas and being a horrible person are not mutually exclusive concepts. However, separating out the idea, can you take it on its own merits, absent whomever might have said it first, and judge it on its own weight? If you can't do that, if you're going to deny someone's idea simply because you don't like them, do you know what that's called? It's called bigotry.
Oh, yeah. Well, I've actually heard people proclaim straight up, if a person told me it's safe to go across the street and I perceive that person to be a good person, then I would listen to them. But if a person who I didn't like said it, I probably wouldn't. And I'm like, but what if it's safe to go across the street?
I would look.
Yeah, exactly. There's
both times.
Yeah, there's the trust but verify aspect. Yes. There's also on whether or not are they giving you advice or are they musing on something that's sort of thoughtful. Dr. King professed famously a principle, to value people on the content of their character, not the color of their skin. That is a principle that, taken in isolation, whomever might have said it, it's still a good idea. It's still a just and fair idea. Even if Dr. King was the most rampant cheater on his wife ever, he just slept with everybody and was a complete hypocrite about his Christian values and everything else. That doesn't change the fact that you should value someone on their character and not the color of their skin.
I wonder what the people who say, we should look at how racist the founders were would think about King's statement when the two of them. I had a thought and it died on me.
Oh no.
King made it his statement, whether or not you agree with it today, which I don't understand why you wouldn't, and that has blown my fucking mind since it started in the 80s.
Yeah.
The content of the character of the founders, for the most part, yes, they were racist. There's no getting around that. But especially by the standards of the day, they were good men.
Yeah. and probably better men than a whole bunch of others in the fact that they sat down and they listened to each other even though they didn't agree. And they hashed out compromise. I mean, the Constitution, if you actually look at the history of their discussions and their writings and the revisions to it that all came about, the Constitution is one of the greatest examples of opposing forces reaching a compromise in, I think, history in general, especially opposing forces on wide degrees. We're talking like miles apart, comparable to the far left versus the far right sitting down and writing out something that they grudgingly accept but aren't happy with, which is exactly where you want to be when you come to a compromise. It's like everybody's a little happy but mostly not, kind of thing. And yeah, I just heard of this today. There's actually a group. I know this is kind of a tangent, but I found this really interesting today. There's a story about this. There's a group, I think, in the Midwest or something. It's like a therapy political group, or at least something like that. What they do is they bring in people who are dyed-in-the-wool Republicans/conservatives, and they bring in people who are dyed-in-the-wool liberal/leftist Democrats. And what they do is they have all these chairs set up with one ring out in the outside and a little cluster in the middle. And all the people from one faction, let's say, sit in the middle and discuss the issues of the day. And all the people on the other side sit in the ring, and they are not allowed to speak. They are simply there to listen. And then they switch. And listening to the people that they go to these things, it's like, they find out real quick how much they actually have common ground on, despite all the sort of ideological distance that otherwise would be there because of not interacting with people who have different opinions. I think it's great. I think it's a great idea because these people come out of it like, yeah, we don't agree on everything, but we all care about our kids. We all care about providing for our families, a bunch of other things. We just have different ideas about how going about it.
Yeah, that is interesting. Although the whole concept of like association nowadays has gotten so bad. I've been thinking of ways to like sabotage people who bring up that argument now. Dusty is another one of them that's like, just like, oh, well, that person said a thing that's similar to what you said right now. Therefore, you are in alignment with that person. Like, I'm just like, I'm going to find a famous picture of a person eating a sandwich and just be like, you like sandwiches? Well, this person does too. So clearly, you guys are like in alignment with everything. Oh, did you know that Hitler liked to breathe oxygen? Yes. Did you know that was a thing?
Thank you, Prospero. If Socrates didn't exist, how did Plato name him? And if Plato didn't exist, how did Aristotle name him? Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Well, Prospero, it's because they had a D&D character name generator. That's all it was. Go online, D&D character name generator. You'll have plenty of names in a button click. But anyway, guys, we're at the bottom of the hour. We got half hour left thereabouts. It is chat time. If you have questions, comments, conspiracy theories, anything else you'd like us to take a look at or discuss or otherwise, post it in the chat. Be sure to put plenty of question marks to let us know that it's a question for us and not something you're responding to in the chat. Let me refresh Maddie's fundraiser. We're now at $780 of the $2,000 goal. Thank you guys so much for your generosity. We'll check it again before the show is over with. And we'll keep posting that on the show until we hit the goal, hopefully sooner rather than later.
Jim Helis asks, if you could go back and witness the creation of the Constitution, would you? If it meant you could report back to modern times your findings, but you have to live your life back then.
No. I would not
if I had to live back then.
Yeah, not if I had to live back then. I would not like to live in a time prior to the time I'm in now, because it only gets worse. As bad as things may be from a sort of sociological position at this stage of the game, it is 5 billion times better than life in the 1700s.
Oh, for sure.
On the other, I would love to be able to witness it, because if you look at our Constitution, it's, especially when you get into the Bill of Rights, what these men did was fucking incredible.
Mm-hmm.
There are people who go, it's a 200-year-old document. Why is it important? And if you ask that question, you're a moron who hasn't paid attention. They set up a government that can be changed at any time, but it can't be changed on a whim, and that is fucking brilliant.
Yeah, look up Joe Pesci's speech from With Honors.
Yes,
it's a pretty decent breakdown of why the Constitution's pretty cool. XGC Scrappy says, has anyone heard from Weibo? She posted on Twitter a little bit before stream. I presume she's probably busy with either family and or school stuff, or she's hitting her head again somewhere.
I'll check in with her while we're going.
Let's see. Hate Camel says, quote, did you know that Hitler liked breathing oxygen? Satsu 2 cents. Yes, he liked it so much it was practically second nature. That's why I've been smoking cigarettes since I was a fetus. Let's see. Re-Terrapin. I have a question, but I doubt it's possible. Any chance you can get Waz Lee on here? I don't know Waz Lee personally, but I don't know about either of you two.
I've never spoken to him.
I've never spoken to him directly. We've communicated through Twitter a few times. With him, I think the problem, because he's English, so the problem would be timing. I could certainly ask him sometime. I like Waz.
Backscan 3030 says, you just found out nothing can kill you. Would it change your life and how? Well, yeah, it would change my life and that I couldn't die. Immortality would suck.
Yeah, it'd be cool for a while, but
yeah, I mean, if I could be immortal but be the only one who could kill myself, maybe. Because I'm like, if I can choose my ending, maybe. But actual immortality, no.
Yeah, I've watched enough fantasy stuff to know that living forever is not the business.
Unless I was a Giovanni vampire, then maybe.
The problem with living forever is you have to sever all ties.
Yeah, you have to watch everybody you know die. You think life flashes past you fast now? Imagine what it's like if you got to the point where decades feel like years or something. It's just, yeah. Or could you even remember that far back? Would you be able to retain memories from that? Like at some point, there's a great little movie.
Me personally?
Well, yeah, you personally, but there's a great little movie called Man from Earth that deals with this concept. It's more like a play than it is a movie per se. I think you can find it online relatively easily. It's very philosophical. It's sort of like Mind Walk. If you ever watched Mind Walk, that movie with John Hurt way back when. Anyway, William Hurt, not John Hurt.
Pat asked if we saw the tweet about the vegan getting meat chopped up in front of them. Yes. Yeah, we actually covered that on Deep, or not Deep Topic. Help me out here. MSS News.
Yeah,
there we go.
No one says, can we get a squealing monkey titty twister on Monkey's Night? Maybe, but that's up to Lady Monkey's availability.
Going back on the immortality thing, I always thought it was interesting that there are typically two outcomes. There's one is absolute like human being destroying insanity, and the other is just like straight up utter peace and lack of empathy, where you're just like, I don't really care about anything or anyone.
Well, that's kind of the just to go back to the gaming nerdery for a second, that's kind of the concept behind the game Vampire the Masquerade, is that the older you get as a vampire, the more diluted your sense of actual humanity becomes.
Yeah.
And so being a human being or being compassionate isn't so much a reflex anymore. It's sort of like you have to remember what it was like to act human. And the older you get, the farther back you have to reach into your memory to try to simulate that notion again. So yeah, exactly. Just once you start watching everybody die and you start seeing the same patterns of human behavior over and over and over again, because it's true, boredom would be your worst enemy real quick.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, not even people would make you interested anymore after a while.
Data wants us to know that the magnetic poles have shifted. I've seen stories about it. I haven't read much into it, so I can't comment on it.
Midnight Exile says, Vampire the Masquerade Bloodline sequel when? Well, it's up in the air to who owns the license now. It's the same people that did EVE Online. They were supposed to do a World of Darkness MMO way back when, and they showed some like test footage and concept art for it, and then they just let it die on the vine. So I'm assuming they still have the license. So if there's ever going to be a Masquerade game again, it's going to have to come from them. So I would say it's probably unlikely, although they keep issuing out new editions of source books and things. If you go to Drive-Thru RPG, what else do we have? Shady Grin says, "Monkey," or it's to all of us. If you could spend a year as any '80s or '90s action movie hero, who would it be? James Bond. All those women he gets to lay with, man. Yeah, James Bond.
There's so many cool ones. I don't know. I'll have to think on that one, and I'll give you an answer in a minute. You have a super chat there.
Yeah, I know. Gregory Hurst, thank you. Wouldn't it be great to go to Constitution signing and see founding fathers calling each other cucks, cringeworthy, tossing doxing accusations, etc.? I mean, they had things similar to that in their day. They just used much, much fancier language for it. Satsu, do you have a 80s or 90s action star you would like to live as?
I got one.
Oh,
go ahead, Monkey.
I want to be Roger Murtaugh.
Really?
Yeah.
Why?
One, he never dies.
Okay, well, that's true of most of the action stars.
He's got the hot wife who never dies. He's got a nice family.
Okay.
So good night, baby. I love you. Yeah, as a family man who enjoys the family part of that, because like you can't do that with Die Hard because his whole fucking personal life falls apart.
Yeah, every time.
Yeah, Murtaugh manages to keep the whole family thing going even while being an old like me action star.
Satsu, any thoughts?
I don't know.
Jenna P asks, out of all three of you, if you were stranded on an island, who would you eat first? Monkey.
Me, because I would die first because I couldn't.
I mean, I wouldn't take any action to hasten the situation, but yeah, it would probably be Monkey. If we were alone on an island, he'd be the first to pass, and we go all like the movie Alive on him. We'd have to eat his butt first, which would be kind of ironic. Don't touch the monkey butt.
By the way, I have a sweet ass. Would probably be tasty.
Squishy recently made me watch that movie.
Oh, what, Alive?
Alive? Yeah.
Oh God, yeah. Not yeah. I mean, that should be like the third part of the triple feature to like really depress yourself. You want to watch Requiem for a Dream, Alive, and what was the other one I said the other night? I suddenly forgot.
Oh, I don't remember. It was just yesterday.
God. It was just yesterday. I just said it. Requiem for a Dream. I forget what it was. Guys, remind me what the other super sad movie I said if you want to depress yourself.
Shieldgrass says, how does a blind person know when they're done wiping? I would imagine the smell.
Yeah. The feel of not being like damp down there or whatever.
Yeah, I was
Leaving Las Vegas. Yes, thank you.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
Leaving Las Vegas, Requiem for a Dream, and then Alive. Even though there is a survival story in Alive, it's still fucking depressing.
That show was crazy. Like the scene. Yeah. I was just wondering, like, what was going through the helicopter's mind when they flew over and saw that. They were just like, what the fuck happened here?
Chaos. Oh, sorry.
Oh, go ahead. Go do yours first.
Harvest Marva says, what do you guys think of Hogg admitting he wasn't even there during the shooting? There's another one, but go do that one first.
That's not exactly what he's admitted.
Okay.
There's no way his two stories add up.
Mm-hmm.
Do you guys know what's going on with this?
No, this is the first I've heard of it.
He went on, or in Time Magazine, he gives this very detailed description of being at the school during the shooting, hiding with his teacher. Mm-hmm. Somebody told them to go back in the room who knew what was going on because they knew the sound of the gunshots. Mm-hmm. But he gave an interview with CBS where he says, in that, real quick, in the Time thing, he makes the statement, I pulled out my camera because I wanted to get as many interviews as I can.
Okay.
Did an interview with CBS where he says, I grabbed my camera and rode the 3 miles to school to get as many interviews as I can.
Oh.
So it definitely sounds like he wasn't there. But he could have been talking about a different time, like later in the day. He'd gone home and come back. He's never actually said that I've seen so far that he wasn't there.
Okay.
And nobody's asking him the question, or nobody in the media is asking him the question. So if he wasn't there, that just makes him the biggest douche in this whole thing besides the shooter.
And then Harvard also asks, and also tonight, Rod Rosenstein being served a subpoena over the Hillary emails. That's the first I've heard of that too. I'll look. I don't know what to think because I if that's true, I only just now heard it. So I'll have to, maybe that'll be a story for tomorrow night. Let's see, what else do we have?
Real quick, I want to address this question because it's a weird one. It comes from Cass Eve. She says, "What would you do if Scribe asked to marry Grand Monkey when she's old enough?"
Oh, God.
Scribbles is a great guy. He would be like 60 at that time.
Yes.
So it would be very awkward for me. But she could do a lot worse, and I would make sure he had nothing to beat my granddaughter with. But otherwise,
I mean, yeah, that is a very odd question. But your boy Pat says, Ranting Monkey, what about the Heineken ad? Oh yeah, we didn't talk about the Heineken ad.
I don't know what that's about.
So Heineken released an ad, and I know I'm going to be paraphrasing the events here, but basically the ad shows people at a bar, and the bartender slides a bottle down the bar, and as it goes down the bar, it passes like 2 or 3 men of color, let's say, or people of color. And it goes down and it's grabbed by a lady, a light-skinned white lady at the end of the bar. And the tagline for the beer is, sometimes lighter is better, or something. And so now it's like this big racist thing and everything. Heineken pulled the ad because, they missed the mark or something, they said. So that's the gist.
I would agree they missed the mark, but people need to learn to fucking laugh. That's... when did we stop laughing? When did we stop laughing?
When Robin Williams died.
Oh my God.
I know.
I still blame Jackass and Tom Green.
Wasn't that like that T-shirt commercial where the white chick took off the shirt? Yeah.
The Dove commercial, wasn't it? Oh, was it?
Yeah.
Yeah,
it was Dove, I think.
Yeah, except that then the white lady took off her skin or whatever, and it was like a Latino lady underneath or something. They forget that part. It kept going.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because they cut out like the rest of the commercial. Right. And then the chick who did it was like, would y'all shut the fuck up? You're ruining this for me.
Yeah, this was a job.
Great.
Jenna P says, what do you think of Trump getting money from military to build the wall?
Technically, it would be part of defense.
Yeah, defense, national security. So I'm sure somewhere in the bureaucracy of budgeting they could justify it.
Len said people need to lighten up.
Yeah, they do. And I see what you did there with the There's plenty of money in the military budget to pay for the wall, and still take care of our vets, still take care of our current active duty. The problem is that there is so much bureaucracy and red tape, and if you want to see, what was it, the Bradley, I think, if you want to see how fucked up vehicle? Yes. If you want to see how fucked up our military is and our military spending is, there's a movie about it. I can't remember the name of it.
It's got Kelsey Grammer, and it was an HBO movie.
Yeah. But you can also look up the actual stories and stuff from it. The Bradley fighting vehicle was supposed to be a transport.
Yep.
A simple vehicle, and the Pentagon kept going, oh, we need more and more and more, and they basically built a machine that it was unusable.
Yeah, it's called the Pentagon Wars, and it's got Kelsey Grammer and Carrie Elwes, and I've seen it before, and it's based on real events. Obviously, it's dramatized a little bit,
sure,
but everything that they talk about in there, as far as like the revisions and the budgeting and the insanity of it, is all absolutely true.
Yeah, it's fucking weird. And I've told this before. My dad was a purchasing officer at the firefighting school in Virginia. And there was one point where he had to go out and just spend a shit ton of money because if he didn't, their budget next year would be cut.
Right.
And that is a thing that happens over and over again in the military.
Subcon Jazz says, what are your guys' favorite ambitious crossover event things other than Infinity War, of course?
My favorite crossover was when DC and Marvel did their crossover.
Oh, or like Superman fought the Hulk or Captain America or whatever.
Yeah, and then they got combined powers. And so like Bruce Wayne became an agent of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Yeah, those were really cool.
Oh yeah, when they mixed Batman and Wolverine together and got Dark Claw. That was I mean, of all the things where they did it was called Amalgam Comics. They did this one event where they took all, like they had the I think it was like Super Soldier was the Superman Captain America mashup. But the one that really looked the best, I don't know if it was a good comic or not, was Dark Claw, where they mixed Logan with Batman.
Yeah, Scrappy says that's a government budget thing, not just the military. I understand, but we were specifically talking military budget there. That's why I was talking about that.
I think the greatest crossover is the Tommy Westphall universe. And if you guys don't know what that is, you can look it up. But basically, it is a theory because of one TV show and characters that resulted in showing up in other TV shows, because it's based on the idea that a autistic child dreamed up an entire TV series called Saint Elsewhere. Therefore, all subsequent television shows where there is any connection to the characters that were part of that dream are thus all part of the same universe imagination of a child. And that would include things like Law and Order and Homicide: Life on the Street and X-Files and a whole ton of other things. There's somebody mapped it all out because they're fucking insane. So look up the Tommy Westphall universe theory and you'll see what I mean. That's my favorite crossover.
Do you have one?
I was trying to think of one while you guys were going. I know it's not like a Marvel comic thing. Chances are it's probably something anime related, to be honest. I'm just trying to think of like what it was that I got like really pumped about.
Let's see.
I really want to talk about Harbos's question there because that's a good one.
All right. Scribe Light, the spending, that spending a lot of money Ranting Monkey just talked about reminded me, have any of you ever seen Brewster's Millions? And what would you guys do if you had that problem? Oh, yeah. I saw that a long time ago. Brewster's Millions is really good.
A remake of it?
Did they? I wouldn't be
original,
surprised, I guess.
Yeah, the original had Richard Pryor and John Candy. Oh, such a good movie.
Brewster's Millions, 1985. Yeah, that's the John Candy, Richard Pryor ones. I know
they were talking about doing it. Anyway, for those of you who haven't seen the movie, what happens is Brewster finds out he has a rich uncle, I think it is. And the way he finds out is he's called into the oh shit, what's it called when dead people leave you money?
Inheritance.
Yeah, anyway, he goes in and he's alone, and there's a videotape that plays for him. Yeah, I know the prior one was a remake. You're right. I said original, but for me, it was the original. It was the first one I saw. You're absolutely right there, Sketchy. Anyway, he's alone in the room because he's going to get $300 million. But in order to get that $300 million, he has to spend $30 million in a month and lose it all. He can't have anything. He can't have a single dime when the month is up.
That would be so easy to do these days.
These days it would, yeah. And he can't tell anybody either. So the movie, everybody thinks he's fucking lost his mind because he just keeps blowing money. And my favorite one is he's not allowed to buy anything and destroy it. He can use it in its original capacity, but like he couldn't buy the Mona Lisa and then cut it up. So what he does is he goes and he buys a really expensive stamp and mails it.
That's right.
Yeah, so that was great. And guys, yes, I know the Richard Pryor one was a remake, but they're remaking it again. I know I read that somewhere.
Well, yeah, there's a story from 3 years ago saying that it was in process, but
yeah,
nothing since. So I'm sketchy that it'll actually happen, but who knows?
Yeah, but these days, and even if you up the money, if you say did it with inflation, it would just be so much easier to spend that money.
Well,
these
like,
days.
yeah, spend $100 million in like 4 days or something.
Sure.
Yeah. Let's see. Jack Hawkins.
You know what I would do?
Oh, sorry.
I would rent every house in the country for a month.
Well, okay, so, and you couldn't donate it to like charity or something.
Yep, you're not. He was given an amount. He was an allotment for charity.
Why not just go to Vegas and just like put it all on red or something?
Yeah.
Let's see. Jack Harkins says Detective John Munch, played by Richard Belzer, was on Homicide, The Beat, The Wire, Arrested Development, X-Files, and Law and Order. Yes, and because characters from St. Elsewhere showed up on Homicide, Life on the Street, anything Belzer was in technically counts in the Tommy Westphall universe, and therefore anything that extends from those shows. So if there's a spin-off of a show he appeared in once, that is part of the universe, and so on, and so on, and so on.
George Mason wants to know our thoughts on Top Gun. You know what? I would like to do that as a movie you should have watched if Scribbles is up for it. I don't. How do you feel about that movie?
I mean, it's overblown popcorn, but yeah, I mean,
love it.
I've seen it 17,000 times because TBS basically bought it.
Yeah, I think that one's oversaturated. So maybe if we could get Iron Eagle.
Yes!
I would do Iron Eagle.
Oh, Chappie! We should totally do Iron Eagle before we do Top Gun, because Iron Eagle is far less appreciated than Top Gun. Guys, we got 4 minutes left. I'm going to recheck on the fundraiser. We're at 780 still of 2,000. So again, the fundraiser will be posted on the next, however many streams it's going to take before we get to the goal to help out Maddie's family. So 4 minutes left, guys. So get in your questions. Prospero says 600 parsecs of separation. Har. Let's see. Chabby says Diz. No, it's Chappie.
With a P.
With a P. Chappie. I also think Iron Eagle is like one of the first times, aside from maybe War Games, where I saw like hacking used as a plot point. Was that they hacked into like the Air Force computer to get him into the pilot seat or to get a plane requisitioned or something?
Yeah.
Let's
I love that movie because if you've been watching for a long time, An Officer and a Gentleman is my favorite movie.
Yes.
And I like pretty much anything I've seen Louis Gossett Jr. in.
Yeah, God, except for Dolph Lundgren's The Punisher.
You're right. Because
I mean, he was in that, and
yes, he was.
He had the best. He had the best line exchange with Dolph Lundgren in that. The Punisher had been arrested, and his old partner, who was played by Louis Gossett Jr., is talking to him, and he's like he says something like 40 homicides in a year. What do you call that? And then Dolph Lundgren looks at him and says, "Work in progress." And I'm just like, that's it. I love that line. Jaws 3, says Angela. Oh God. That was the Dennis Quaid Jaws.
Jaws 3 in 3D.
In 3D. Now, if you really want to torture yourself, watch Jaws 4: The Revenge with Michael Caine.
Mario Van Peebles.
Oh, Mario Van Peebles. Let's see. Ready Player One. They added a new character, a female CEO. Diversity. Rai says a really odd move I just seen recently is Pan's Labyrinth. Have you seen that, Scribe Light? Yes, Pan's Labyrinth is what?
I'm laughing at Captain Brambles. Keep saying
yeah. Pan's Labyrinth is it's an acquired taste. It is an adult horror fairy tale. Definitely not for little kids, because that's what it. See, that was the kind of thing. After I saw the movie, I thought the way they're advertising this almost looks like it's like a kids' fantasy movie. But the whole bottle scene, if you know what I'm talking about, the bottle scene, I mean, that disturbed the fuck out of me, and I'm a grown adult at that point. So yeah. Anyway, go ahead.
Captain Bramble said that's one of my favorite movies too, Monkey. I come to the stream because I've got no place else to go. If you've seen the movie, you know why that's funny.
Let's see. Shiogarath. We'll end on Shiogarath's joke. What's black, 4 inches wide, and makes my wife moan. The toast I've just made her.
That is very tame for you.
That is, I know, I was about to say, that is probably the cleanest joke I've read of Shiogorath ever. So thank you for that.
Indeed.
Guys, by the time I finish this, we'll be at the top of the hour. Thank you so much for coming out tonight. Let me do one more check on the fundraiser. Yeah, so 780 of 2,000. We'll be checking in on that again tomorrow on Monkey's channel. Same Lords of the Night time, not the same Lords of the Night channel. Har har. Moderators, thank you for keeping an eye on things. As always, you are the unsung heroes. Everyone who donated to the fundraiser, thank you, thank you, thank you so much. You guys are living saints at this stage of the game, so thank you for that. Let's see.
Can I cut in right there? Guys, even if you can't donate, if you would be so kind as to share that on social media.
Yes,
that would be awesome.
Yeah, Facebook, Twitter, wherever. If you don't have the ability to donate, and that's perfectly fine too, take that link and spread it far and wide. Every little bit helps.
Also, too, I got confirmation that Squishy's aunt had her surgery from when you guys helped her out.
Right,
yes,
and they're gonna run some more tests, but otherwise she's doing good. So
yay!
Sweet,
excellent. Well, this has been a great night. So, guys, thank you again for showing up tonight, as you always do. Best audience on YouTube. Satsu, Monkey, as always, thank you for joining me. And everyone, today your lives make us happy. We will see you tomorrow.
Bye, guys.
Not me.